Hello and happy, strangely apocalyptic fall semester. We've had very strange weather the past couple of days, but we'll just pretend everything is normal and carry on. So today I want to talk about C-sharp trill keys on flutes. Someone requested this topic a few weeks ago, and I think this is really good timing to address it because a lot of student flute players right now are upgrading their instruments. And this is a great option to think about getting if you are in the market. And often I have students come in with new flutes and they have a C-sharp trill and they didn't even realize they got it. They don't know what it is. So take a look if you have a new flute and see if you have a C-sharp trill key. How you can tell is if you have this extra key between your thumb key and these normal trill keys that everybody has, this is a C-sharp trill key. The other sign that you have a C-sharp trill key is if you have two levers here instead of just one. Everybody has this B-flat lever, but the one that's closer to your face, if you have that second one, that's your C-sharp trill key. Of course, the C-sharp trill key is going to cost you something extra. Depending on the materials of your flute, it might cost about $500 extra. That's why I never got one until I had a professional job as a musician and I could afford a new flute, and at that point I got the C-sharp trill key, so I went about 16 years without one. You don't need it, but it's a great option. So the reason to get a C-sharp trill key, there's more than one reason. It helps you trill the C-sharp, but that's kind of like saying that a glass is a water holder. There's a lot more stuff you can do with a glass than just hold water. And if you're thinking that C-sharp trill key helps you trill from C to D flat or B to C sharp, those are the most obvious things that it does. But there's plenty of other stuff that it does as well. You may not realize it, but this tone hole here under your C key, that when you lift the C key you get C sharp, this tone hole is completely a compromise. And that's why when we play C sharp with the normal fingering, the C sharp doesn't sound very good. It sounds hollow, it sounds less focused. Flute players know it can so easily be sharp. It's just a very unstable pitch on the flute. If this tone hole underneath this key were not a compromise, it would be the same size as these other tone holes. So that when you finger C sharp, you get a bigger tone hole that's open there. Well, so why didn't they do it that way? The reason is that this tone hole serves a dual purpose. It not only gives you C sharp, but it acts as an octave vent. So when we play D and E, in the middle register, we lift this finger off so that we get this vent. And if it were bigger, if that were a bigger tone hole, it wouldn't vent successfully. We couldn't get a nice D or E flat in the middle octave. So that's why this is such a compromise. And that's why it's not surprising that somebody came along and said, you know, it would be great is if we had a C sharp tone hole that was not a compromise. So if you look at this C sharp tone hole next to your B tone hole, it's the same size, and that's on purpose because that's the ideal. So if you play, say, a B or a C and you press your C sharp lever so that you get this C sharp tone hole open, you get a nice, round, stable, pretty C sharp. So the most obvious uses for this are what I just said, trilling from B to C sharp. If you finger B and you trill with this lever, that's much better than the alternative, which is to lift your thumb and your first finger. And same thing with C to D flat. If you finger C and you trill with this, and that's great, and it's much easier than doing this too. It just works a lot more smoothly. Other uses. My favorite use is trilling high G to high A. Every time I do it, I think it's worth the $500. So a normal G to A trill is very obnoxious. You can either do this, which is very hard to coordinate, or you can finger G and then I overblow D to E trill. When I didn't have a C-sharp trill key for many years, I'd do it this way most of the time. But with the C-sharp trill key, you can trill the C-sharp trill key and your first trill key. Some people call this the D trill key. I call it 1 and 2. If you use these two, suddenly trilling high G to high A is no problem at all. Another great use for it is trilling high G to high A flat. If you finger G and you use your C-sharp lever here, there are other high note trill fingerings that benefit from that C-sharp trill key. Mostly fingerings that involve your thumb or your first finger trilling are improved by the C-sharp trill key. So if you're trilling high F sharp to high G sharp, that's the same thing as if you're trilling B to C sharp, you move your thumb and your first finger. High F sharp to high G sharp, instead of moving your thumb and first finger, you can just use the trill key. And then the other one that's really good is high A flat to high B flat. I used to cheat with this and just use my 2 trill keys. It works okay, but it's a little thin sounding on the B flat. If you use these 2 trill keys plus the C-sharp trill key, maybe again you can hear, I'll do without and then I'll add it. It just makes a nicer, more open, and better in tune trill. Other things that you can do with this C-sharp trill key, you can tremolo from many notes to C-sharp. In the low octave, you can tremolo G, A flat, A, B flat, B, C to C-sharp if you do this. You can get all those up to C-sharp. You probably don't need to very often, but you have the option. And then in the upper octave, the G and the A flat don't really work. But going from the A up, A, B flat, B, C, similarly to those tremolos from G, A, B to C sharp, you can tremolo all those notes, all those chromatic notes, G, A flat, B flat, B, C, to D by also using this first trill key, your D trill key. So if I'm going G to D, I can use those too. And again, going up chromatically. And also to get D sharp, you add this other trill key. So you use all 3, C sharp, 1 and 2 trill keys here, and that'll get you a D sharp. Once in a while, you might have use for them. Maybe you're like jamming, doing some cool beatbox or jazz thing, and you want to throw in some crazy tremolos, and there you go. These tremolos to D and D sharp don't work as well in the higher octave, but you can still do a really good tremolo from high D to B with your C sharp trill key and your first trill key. There are some other uses for the C sharp trill key. For instance, if you want to play a soft, high A flat, the highest octave A flat, you can play your middle octave A flat, just all those regular fingerings, and then press your C sharp trill key. It's very easy to control. It's a great soft A flat, and it's very stable. The other thing that you can do is just finger the C sharp, whether you're playing, any of these notes with your left hand, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, you can just press them and then add your C sharp trill key to get the C sharp. So one thing flute players often do is they use it for the Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun by Debussy, the opening solo that starts on a C sharp. If you play your B and then you press the C sharp trill key, you get a really stable, nice, in tune, not hollow sounding C sharp. Like that. what I think is really funny about that is Debussy was an incredibly knowledgeable composer. He was so interested in color, and the Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun is imitating a faun playing on a panpipe. He very consciously chose to start on C sharp because it's a hollow, not very well in tune note. He thought it was a great way to imitate a faun playing on panpipes. And so what do? We come along and say, oh, Debussy, that's too out of tune, it's too hollow. We're going to fix it with our C sharp trill key. And that's like exactly what he didn't want. He wanted that funny, hollow, not very well in tune sound so that it wouldn't sound like just a traditional flute. So if you use that, which most people do, that if you have a C sharp trill key, most people want to use that for that Debussy solo, but you'll have to search your soul and think whether you want to be true to the spirit of Debussy and what Debussy was after in this solo, or if you want to be flawlessly accurate as an orchestral player. Unfortunately, these days, orchestras want flute players to be just flawlessly perfect. And so most flute players go the safe route and they opt to use that C sharp trill key, even though it might be kind of anti-Debussyan.